Hello, everybody. This is Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I wanted to go over this morning all of the stats in regards to what's happening, which I do every week. And I received an email from a guy this week saying all of the doom and gloom and everything that's going on in the housing market. I also spoke to a lender this week that is from originally California and had moved to Florida about a year ago. And some interesting tidbits that he had come up with, and really understanding the market about like I do in regards to what we think is going on and all of that kind of good stuff. And so it was very interesting. But when you look at the stats here, and so the doom and gloom, in my opinion, is not necessarily going to happen. And, you know, obviously I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know for sure, but I do have a pretty good feel in regards to what's going on and watching the market, as I always do, in seeing what's happening. So last week there were 405 homes sold, and this is Osceola, Orange, Seminole, and Lake counties. So those four counties. And so there were 405, 443 the week before, but the median price actually increased to 449. So it's still within that same realm of where it has been for a few years, you know, somewhere between like 400 and 450. So we're actually on the higher side of it right now. And basically the inventory decreased by 15, which means it pretty much stayed the same, and 9,451 of those properties. So when you're looking of how that shakes down, of those 405 properties, there were 36 of them under 250, 32 between 250 and 300, 78 between 300 and 400, 98 between 400 and 500, 136 between 500 and a million, and 25 over a million. So when you're looking at the months of inventory overall this week, because there were a few less sold, it came to 5.39, which is still a normal market. A normal market is between 4 and 6 months. So under 250, we're at 4 months, 3.86 between 250 and 300. Then we go to 5.7 between 300 and 400, and then we're but everything except for over a million is right around that normal market. And then over a million, with 25 of them selling, 959 on the market, we've got 8.85 months of inventory. So there might be a little bit more room on that side of the market. When you're looking at the list to sale price ratio, this is down a little bit, 96.65. 93.46 is under 250, and 93.48 over a million. And then everywhere in between, 96.17 is 250 to 300. Then they're all at the 98s, which is pretty normal in what it is. The days to contract is 66. So that's kind of what's going on there. So that's not anything new or different or anything either. When we're looking at the condos, townhomes, and villas, there were 120 sold last week, and that was 119 the week before, so pretty consistent. And they actually increased as well to 275, which is just a little bit higher. But they're kind of ranging. That's, again, kind of on the high side in regards to where they've been and all of that kind of good stuff. And that inventory increased by 15, which is only 15, but it's not good for the condos, townhomes, and villas. Because right now they're looking at overall 8.66 months of inventory, and they're at 15 months of inventory between 500 and a million. None of them sold over a million, which there are 15 of them on the market. Not a lot, but still, it makes it so it's difficult to say how many months of inventory. So of those 120, 47 of them were under 250, 19 between 250 and 300, 33 between 300 and 400, 16 between 400 and 500, 5 between 500 and a million, and like I said, none over a million. So when you're looking at that, that's why I always say that everything is local. I mean, if we're just looking here at the condos, townhomes, and villas versus the single family homes, there's a big difference in regards to the months of inventory, and then it's obviously whether it's a buyer or a seller's market. Now, for some time in the condo market, it has been a buyer's market. The biggest challenge that comes in is that a lot of these condo fees have gone up, and so as a result of that, people look at it and say, I could just buy a house, or what if they go up again, or whatever. And so as a result of that, there's that uncertainty, which definitely has a downward press on the price, and definitely inventory hanging out longer than condo owners would like them to. And, as I've said many times, a lot of that comes as a result of the increased inspections that are required on condos today if they're over 4 stories or 4 stories or more, and as well as the reserves and all of those kinds of things to make them healthier. So we're probably still a few years away from that all kind of evening itself out, where these buildings that did need additional repairs, that had deferred maintenance, that those things are in process of being done. There's been big, special assessments for a lot of those condo owners that are there at the moment. And as a result of that, there's a lot of people that want to get out. And so it will eventually even itself out. But right now, it's kind of in a tough situation. So when you're looking at it, if you're buying a condo and you're thinking I remember there were some condos, and I haven't looked recently if there still are, but they were in West Palm Beach, and they were for sale for about $100,000. And so you think, wow, that's great. I can go in there, I can buy that property, and it was in a nice neighborhood. And then you realize that when you dig a little deeper, that there is a $50,000 a year membership fee that comes along with that condo. So what had happened in that particular situation is that the $50,000 was more than most people could afford on an annual basis to pay for that membership fee, which was required for that. So the people that owned those units were pretty much giving them away because they didn't want to have that $50,000 annual fee. And so, that's obviously something that, is kind of out of the norm and that kind of thing. But it does, it comes down to that when something looks too good to be true, you've got to check it out and see really what's going on. And I think that really was a big eye opener to a lot of people that were looking at it, and they do that. And we do have that same kind of situation here in Orlando in a couple of those condo hotel communities, because people look at them and they say, wow, I can buy a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, 2-bath condo here for under $100,000. And then they start looking at what the maintenance fees are, and that you have to, only be in them 180 days or less out of the year, and that kind of thing. And then they start saying, or maybe it's 160, it's half the year. And I think it's 180. And basically, what they're saying is okay, well, that really isn't the situation of what I was hoping for. I wasn't aware of that $1,200 a month fee that came along with it and everything as well. And so basically, they run away from that and think, okay, things are more expensive than they need to be. And basically, everything is based on the market and supply and demand and what people are looking for and everything. And I do believe that there is a pent-up demand there for buyers that are just waiting for the right circumstance and everything out there to purchase. And so I've got quite a bit that I'm going to be talking about that in the next segment. But in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I was talking last segment, really in regards to what was going on in the market and what people are looking for and what they think is going to happen and all of that kind of good stuff. And there are a lot of people out there that are talking doom and gloom. And, it just kind of comes down to, I think, in my opinion, it depends on who you're talking to and what they're really looking at. Because you can really take statistics and you can, mend them to kind of say what you want to say for the most part. I do take the statistics every week and talk about them the same way so that we're looking at apples to apples and not apples to oranges or some other fruit that's out there. But basically, when it comes down to it, what we want to see is we definitely want to see what's going on in the market, what's happening, what the trends are, what we're seeing, and all of those kinds of things. And the biggest holdback in our market is basically the interest rates is basically the biggest holdout. And when I was looking at a report this week, it was saying that it was talking about some of the slowest markets in the country. And we were in that pile or whatever of the slowest markets, that it takes a little bit longer, and that's because we're in a normal market now, whereas many people are still in parts of the country are in an area where you put a house on the market and it's going right away. We're not there, but we're not decreasing either. So basically we're pretty much holding our own as we had the last 3 or 4 years. I think that we're all waiting for the interest rates to go down and everything. And when the interest rates go down, I think that what we're going to find is that we're going to have almost a feeding frenzy. The inventory is going to disappear quite quickly. The buyers are not going to be able to find the houses that they want because they're going to be snatched up immediately. And, basically you're going to be going, okay, I wish I would have bought a year ago. And, I was talking to one of my constant, I guess it's, he's a pretty, he buys and sells quite regularly. And so he's a good client and all of that kind of thing. And I was talking to him last night. And one of the things that he was telling me is that he was saying that, he was expecting that the interest rates would have gone down by now, which I think everybody was. So basically, and he's waiting for that because when that happens, then that's going to mean that his house is going to shoot up, and then he's going to go ahead and, move out of there and find another place and everything like that. Not that his house has declined, because it hasn't, but it has stayed the same. So basically, when you're looking at that, you want to see, what's going on in the market and what's happening and all of that kind of good stuff. And what I have noticed is that there are some areas in the outlying areas that the prices have gone down, but there's other areas that prices have gone up. And that comes down to location, location, location. Ever since I was a little girl, I always heard about that. And it's not necessarily talked about as much today, but it definitely is out there that is what the bottom line is, that you can never go wrong, in my opinion, buying in the right location. So the question that I think every buyer has to ask themselves, if they're a buyer today or they're waiting for the interest rates to go down, is that really, where do you want to be in a year from now? Do you want to be where you're at now, or do you want to have some choices and be able to get into a house that you can actually, afford now, but maybe even afford it better in the future when the interest rates do go down, which all of the experts are saying that they are going to go down, although we don't know when it is, including the president, as was, said this week and everything. But we're all thinking that they are going to go down because it only makes sense that they will. And so as they do go down, then that's going to create more affordability for more people in the market. And obviously, with a higher demand, then the supply is probably going to go down and the prices are going to go up. So that's my expectation in regards to what's going on. But there are pockets that are maybe in a location that somebody settled for and that they thought, oh, I really don't want to go out that far or drive an hour to work, but I'm going to do it. And then they start doing it and they're like, okay, the wear and tear on my time, energy, and effort is not worth it. I would rather A, either find a new job or B, move somewhere else. So I think that is what's going on kind of in the outlying areas from what I can see. I did pull up the month over month changes for June, and I haven't gone over these yet, although they came out a couple of weeks ago. And basically the inventory from June of 25 to 24 went up 27% from 10,796 to 13,793. Now, the thing that's different about these stats and the ones that I give every week is that this is everything all together. So it includes the condos, townhomes, homes, and villas, and the houses and everything all together. So the median price here at 390 is different than the for 80 or 90 or 450, I think it was, that we're 449 is what I think we were this week, because it's got everything glommed together. So it makes things a little bit different. But when you're looking at the average price between 24 and 25, it went up 1%. When you're looking at the median price between 24 and 25, it went down 1.3%. So it went from 390 to 395, from 395 to 390. The average price went from 489 to 494. So one went up 5,000, the other one went down. So that's basically what happened on there. The days on the market changed a little bit from 54 to 67. And we went from 4.15 months of supply to 5.49. So you have to remember, again, we're still in a normal market at 5.49. But remember, we were at 8 months on the condos, townhomes, and villas. So when you average everything all together, that's kind of how it shakes itself out. Then when you're looking at month over month, we're basically, the average price went in May of 2025 at 495, 763 to 494, 686. So that's down 0.2%. The median price May to June stayed the same at 390. So, and the days on the market in May was 68 and we went to 67. So basically, pretty flatlined, like I said, in regards to how everything is out there. And so I think that you have to look and see what you think is going on in the future and kind of go from there. And there are, it's like I always watch the builders too and see kind of what they're going, and they're pretty much out there in the outlying areas because that's where the land is, where they can build. And the houses that are being built, in the central part of the city and built in the city and that kind of thing, or maybe it's like Claremont, Winter Garden, and those kinds of places that those prices are holding very strong and everything as well. But like I said, kind of in the outlying areas, and it might be in Osceola County that's kind of way east. So it's like east of Harmony and, really south in St. Cloud and stuff like that. Like those houses, that's, going down a little bit and not a lot, but going down a little bit. And I think that the reason for that is just because of the inventory that's out there, and the traffic is really, pretty strong there on Narcoossee. They're doing some things to try to make it better. But basically, again, it comes down to a thing where, you're definitely driving for quite a while. I know a lady that if there's no traffic, it takes 10 minutes to get to her house. If there is traffic, it takes 50 minutes. So things like that make people, again, go, okay, really not too excited about my commute and what I'm doing and all of that kind of good stuff. So location is very critical when it comes to buying a house and finding that right match for you when it comes down to it and what's going on and everything like that. And I'm going to be talking about the builders in the next segment. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So one of the things that I wanted to remind everybody of is that tomorrow, August 4th, is that the home hardening grant program, the My Safe Florida Home Program, reopens on August 4th, which is Monday. So it's a home hardening grant program, and it matches with 10,000 matching grants to help strengthen homes against storms. So it started out as a simple first come, first serve program offering $10,000 matching grants to owners of older Florida homes who take specific actions to harden their homes against hurricanes. The My Safe Florida Home Program proved wildly popular, quickly obligating the initial funding and leaving latecomers to await legislative approval for new money each year. Since 2022, the program has reimbursed $369 million to 39,271 homeowners. And now with another $280 million approved by the governor and legislative in June, there's a restrictive version of the program that will reopen for application tomorrow. And of the $280 million is considerably less than the $590 requested. There's still $280 million out there. Okay, so basically, let me go through here. And grant applications for those 45,000 who have completed their initial windstorm mitigation inspection and verified their age and income eligibility will be processed under rules that prioritize low and moderate income homeowners. And homeowners who have not yet begun the process are urged to begin as soon as possible by going to mysafeflhome.com and creating an account and requested a free inspection to identify improvements that might make your home eligible for grants and discounts on your property insurance bills. So eligible improvements include secondary water resistance barriers for roofs. This usually results in approvals for full roof replacements, since inspectors can't tell whether a roof has a secondary water resistance barrier by sight alone. Roof-to-wall connection strengthening and roof deck strengthening. These typically require increasing the number and type of reinforcements to comply with current building codes. And then opening protections includes overhead garage doors with steel reinforcements, impact windows or aluminum shutters, and new entry doors to the front of the or sides of the house. So windstorm mitigation inspections must be completed before participants are allowed to request funding. And while the first $215 million approved in 2022 and 23 went to homeowners with no regard to income, last year they added a $200 million, but decided to prioritize low and moderate income homeowners over age 60. So higher income homeowners were to be considered after the application portal was open for 8 weeks. And so the problem was that all of the new funding was earmarked just after 17 days, and higher income homeowners never had the opportunity to apply. So this year, homeowners who do not fit into the low or moderate income classification aren't being allowed to apply at all at first. They might be allowed to apply for free inspections if funds remain available after the prioritization period ends September 29th. And should there be any unused home inspection funds remaining after all low and moderate income households have been served, the program may open home inspection applications for higher income homeowners. That you have to put up $1 for every $2 requested, up to $10,000. And homeowners in the low income category are not required to contribute any match. So definitions for low and moderate income levels are set by Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, and they vary by county and household size. Generally, a household of low income is if its members earn 80% or less than the median income of the county where they live. and the household is considered moderate if they earn between 80 and 120% of the county's median income. And you can consult a chart on HUD's website to determine whether your income level satisfies the requirements of the MySafe Florida Home Program, and it's available at HUD-datasets/portal/datasets/il.html. So sorry about that. It's kind of long. So other program requirements include the home must be a single-family detached a residential property or townhouse. It must be site-built and owner-occupied. The insurance value of the home has to be under $700,000, and low-income homeowners are exempt from this requirement, and it must have been granted a homestead exemption under Florida law. So basically it's available, and so if you qualify for it, might as well take advantage of it. Just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of it. And so if you haven't heard, the Fed leaves the interest rate unchanged. So they held interest rates at 4.3% for the fifth time this year, citing inflation concerns and tariff uncertainty. And the economy grew 3% in the second quarter. So basically, we're all hoping that the interest rates go down. And then Florida renters are currently struggling with housing costs. Nearly 905,000 low-income renters in Florida pay more than 40% of their income on housing. So efforts to increase affordable units continue as homelessness rises. So basically, from the study, they found that there's a growing affordability gap. An estimated 904,635 renter households earns below 60% of their area median income and are cost burdened by paying 40% of their income towards rent. These households are spread across the state, where 64% in Florida, 9 most populous counties, and 33% in mid-sized counties, and 3% in small rural counties. So I'm sure that we are definitely high in rent. We are high in rent. I know that. So most renters are working. 79% of renter households include at least one employed adult, compared to 67% of owner households. And basically it's showing that there are 29,000 individuals and 44,000 families are without stable housing, up from 2022. So that's not good. And assisted housing provides an alternative to high-cost private market rentals. Developments funded by Florida Housing, HUD, USDA, and local housing finance authorities provide about 314,000 affordable rental units statewide. So basically, that's something that, is not exciting in regards to what's going on, but it definitely exists with the way that the rentals went up a few years ago when the interest rates were low, is kind of what's happening, and we're dealing with the after effects of that for sure. And so it's just continually happening in regards to that the rental rates have stabilized. The interest rates have stabilized. So basically what's happening in Central Florida when you're thinking about housing is, for the most part, it is very stable. But you know what? There are some really, really nice things that are going on in housing that I'm going to talk about in the next segment. And so in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. So that's 407-566-2555. I realized when I was saying that, I was saying it so fast. And I'm like, there's no way anybody could get that phone number. So I tried to slow down the second time I said it, but I'm not sure I did. But, green things, good things that are going on, green money, so that's what I was thinking, green, good. But basically, one of the things that is going on out there is that there are some great, great bargains out there from builders. And I was at a builder this week with a guy, and basically it's about the development is about 3 miles off of I-4. Basically, it's on the south side. It's in Polk County, but basically it is amazingly priced, and I mean, there's no CDD, which the CDD is a problem for a lot of people. One of the things that happens when you go into a builder and they say, okay, well, the CDD is like $1,400. You're like, okay, $100 a month. That's not too big of a deal. And, but then they don't tell you about the maintenance part of the CDD. And in one particular neighborhood, it ended up being another $900. So instead of it being $1,400, it's really $2,500. And then on top of that, when you're working with certain builders, they don't always tell you what the taxes are going to be after you're completed. And I thought that had changed quite a bit after after 2008, that they had changed quite a bit of that. But I did find that there were a few cases where that wasn't necessarily the case. So when you're out there working with a builder and they're like, hey, this is going to be your payment, the question that you need to ask, is that what it's going to be, 2 years from now? I mean, obviously they can't guarantee what the insurance is going to be, but if you're homesteaded, they should be able to tell you what the taxes are, because in almost every county today, they do have a tax calculator that you put in the parcel number, the address, what you're paying for the property, and they're going to tell you a range within $1,000 of what your taxes are going to be, and sometimes it's within $500. And they're going to ask you if it's going to be homesteaded and all of that kind of stuff. Now, the portability, you definitely have to call them and find out what the scoop is. But the good news is that this one particular builder that I went to the other day, they definitely make sure that you know exactly what everything is going to be when it comes to the taxes, the insurance. They've got a really good handle on all of that and what the final payment is going to be, and they make sure that you're very well aware of that. It's a big company. They don't want any lawsuits in the future and all of that kind of stuff of anybody coming back to them. This community does not have a CDD. It has a $40 a month HOA, and that's it. And basically, there was a 5-bedroom, 2.5-bath house, 2,200 square feet. There's a 4-bedroom that's about the same size, maybe 100 square feet less or so, and right around $300,000. So our median house price was at $449, and this is a brand new house at $300. So basically, really good. It is a builder closeout, which means that this particular builder, this development that it's being built in, there's about 600 houses that are being built in there, and there are 2 builders in there. The one builder, they sold them like 71 of the 600 lots, and they thought they were going to get more, but they decided they're not going to sell them anymore. And so this builder that has the 71 lots, they're like, okay, well, let's just sell these and get rid of them and be done with it. So they've actually undercut the price. Maybe it's to get back at the other builder that is not going to sell them any lots that they promised them. So they're selling their houses for significantly less than that other builder is. And, and so they're not going to allow that builder to really probably sell until they're done and out of there. They only have a handful left. That I think in that development of those 70, they sold 30 last month because that was the decision that the management made, that they just wanted to cut and run. Basically, the bottom line is on that, they're also offering $20,000 in closing costs. They are also offering a rate buy down that you can do, a 30-year fixed at 4.99, or you can do a 5-1 ARM at 3.65. So basically, that's an adjustable rate mortgage, but it's starting out, extremely low. You've got to qualify at what the highest rate is going to be. But basically, when it comes down to it, that's what it is. So it's very affordable. And in my opinion, it's not too far out there. It's out of, it's a more rural area. And so, as a result of that, it's about 4 miles to 3 different Publixes is basically what it was what the sales guy told me. Now, I'm sure that there will be more, development and that kind of stuff that comes in that area, but it's a very nice community. It's on a lake. They have a fishing pier, all of those kinds of things. I believe there's a boat ramp and everything that's there as well. And so it's, it's kind of off of the beaten path at the moment, but it's a great deal. And you're walking in there with equity in your home because the builder has discounted the prices by about 40 or 50,000. And so, if you needed to sell it a year or two from now, you would not have any trouble. And it might be a good way for you to get in the market and go from there. And, basically when sometimes people are thinking that they want to get out of the market because they're moving somewhere else or something like that, which I've dealt with quite a few people in my years as a realtor doing that. And the thing that I found is that then, when the market goes up again, they're like, gosh, I wish I would have held on to something or bought something that would have worked out for me. So I believe that this house would be a cash flow positive for you if you did want to rent it out. I haven't checked out. It might be, down if you can't finance it necessarily at that level because that's an FHA loan and you have to live in it. But basically, if you were paying cash for it, it would be a good investment to have for that. If you're buying it and going to live in it for a couple of years and renting it out, I think that you would be in a really good position for that as well. So it's, kind of a win-win situation all around. So this is just one particular development, one particular builder that's out there. And so they are out there. They're just needles in a haystack that you have to know where to look, which of course I do. And so I can help you with that. The other thing that I ran in today not today, but this week that I thought was really interesting was a particular, all of these lenders, they have, kind of like their fastball or their thing that they specialize in and everything. And this particular lender specializes in the jumbo and the high end. And basically, he has a product that he knows he is at least 0.5% to 1% less than the average jumbo loans out there. So if you are in the market for that kind of a loan, please contact me and I'll get you in touch with him because I know that basically he's got a really good product. As I said earlier in the show, this guy came from California. He's been in Central Florida for about a year, and he was working in Silicon Valley. He was very creative in working with a lot of these people that were with, Apple and Microsoft and those kinds of companies because they were all getting stock options, and a lot of banks don't include those stock options or those stocks as their income. And so they would have to sell the stock in order to buy a house, which they really didn't want to do. So with the products that he has, you don't have to do that. They actually recognize that as income the way that it should be so that you can hold on to that stock. So I don't know if any of you are in that situation, but there are those things out there, and just use me as a resource for anything that you need, real estate wise. I'm more than happy to help anybody in whatever way that I can. And that's what I'm here for. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. And you can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com. And we will see you next week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.